Hey there, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to this week's Astrological Report for July 14 through July 20 of 2026. This week, we start things off with a brand new lunar cycle. We have a Cancer new moon on Tuesday at 21 degrees, 59 minutes, conjunct Mercury Retrograde. So a brand new lunar cycle shows we're entering new circumstances, new situations, new vibes for the next month based on this new beginning that's being rooted the next 2 days in the sign of Cancer. Other than that, we do also have this big configuration up in the sky that's connecting all of the outer planets. So we have this perfect minor grand trine between Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. This week, Uranus is making that perfect trine to Pluto and that perfect sextile to Neptune throughout the week. But we also see that Jupiter is now in the picture. So Jupiter is entering 4 degrees of Leo and kind of connecting itself to all the outer planets, which kind of looks like a basket configuration when you just look at the 4 planets connected in this. So Jupiter is a planet of growth and expansion, and now that it's coming into alignment with all these outer planets, it's going to really amplify and expand and kind of show that there's big dramatic connections going on for this worldly configuration that kind of shows the world is in a new era, a new reality, and it's all kind of being shaped by what's going on. And it's only the beginning. You know, this is going to be the rest of 2026, all of next year, 2027, that the world is being shaped, you know, that we see by these minor grand trines and the overall basket configuration. But Jupiter kind of adds a lot more pressure and intensity as it's opposing Pluto and trying to expand everything that it's touching. So I'll be talking about those aspects throughout the week here when I go through the charts day by day. We also have Mars in Gemini forming a sextile with Saturn. That'll be exact on next Sunday, July 19. So really, just looking at the aspect list, things look pretty decent overall. There's not a ton of major hard aspects. There's not a lot of challenging aspects in the sky overall. And this bigger configuration for the world, it is talking about something more positive that's trying to be established for the world over this next 2 years. But we're kind of in the beginning. We're not seeing it all yet. So as far as like everyday aspects go, it's mostly just lunar aspects this week. So again, things don't look too terrible. There's a few moments throughout the week that could show some challenges here. And again, I'll go through it day by day. So really it all comes back to this new moon in Cancer that's about to start. Well, it is starting, you know, as you're watching this video, the moon is waxing forward within this new cycle. So let's start here and start on Tuesday with this new moon on July 14. Literally the first aspect is this new cycle. Again, this is a new cycle that's rooted in the sign of Cancer at 21 degrees, 59 minutes. So if you have any personal planets around 20, 21, 22 degrees, even 23, then this new moon is connected to whatever planet that is in your chart around 22 degrees of Cancer. But also check your chart. Where do you have the sign of Cancer in your chart? It's a certain area of your life. Generally, it talks about home and family and emotions. So we're entering a very emotional cycle. Now, the sun has already been here for the last 22 days. So we've already had a lot of focus on this area of the chart. But technically, this is a new beginning energetically for the next year based on what's going to kind of be seeded the next couple of days. And there is really no major aspects off of this new moon besides the conjunction to Mercury. That's going to be the strongest aspect, is this Mercury retrograde that's still in this overall process of reviewing and reflecting the area of life that you do have the sign Cancer. So this whole cycle is also going to be connected to a lot about this Mercury retrograde, what we need to go back and look at again, check in with feelings and needs. This is all about emotions and feelings. So there's a lot of sensitivity, from this point forward. It's also going to get dramatic and passionate as everything will build towards Leo, plus that Jupiter connecting to the outer planets. But it's still, we're rooted in Cancer, emotions and feelings and the need for safety, security, and comfort, and this brand new emotional cycle that's starting in your chart for the next 12 months in this area. So I would say even this whole next 12 months, even though Mercury is going to be going direct by next week, so this is the last week of Mercury retrograde in Cancer here, it still kind of indicates that this entire cycle is rooted around reflection, things of the past. Cancer has strong memories of the past, and especially with Mercury retrograde here, there's things of the past that we might have to deal with or look at and reflect on, review, make changes about certain things. And again, it goes back to how people are feeling, their needs, how safe and secure they're feeling in life right now, and what needs to change in that regard to feel more safe, secure, comfortable. So generally it's talking about the homeland, this foundational energy in the chart, and then homes and families and people's needs and emotions. All these things are connected to what's driving people, what's going to be driving this entire cycle over the next month. So again, if you have 21, 22 degrees, you're really in this the most, and if you have a planet in that spot. If you don't have a planet there and it's just in your chart, again, wherever you have the sign Cancer, there's a brand new cycle. That's where the focus is. That's where the emotional circumstances are moving through right now. And everything's going to be pushing towards Leo for a big dramatic August coming up at the end of July into August. But this cycle will still get pretty dramatic because even in 2 weeks from now, we're going to have a full moon next to Pluto as the sun is conjunct Jupiter and Leo. So big energy is coming this next 2 weeks that's building from this point forward. So it's a time to look at your home life, your family life, and what needs to be changed. What do you still need to get done in some way? What is plaguing you from the past? Or again, what needs to change to give you a better sense of how you feel about life and safety and security and comfort and a lot of that kind of stuff that the Cancer cycle talks about. It's also a cycle to be much more guarded, protective. It's a kind of an inward cycle, but yet we still have so much outward energy as well that's developing this new reality for the world. So that's what we have. First thing on Tuesday morning is this brand new cycle that we're working with. Now, there still could be some challenges that this cycle talks about since the main aspect is the conjunction to the Mercury retrograde. So we could still have issues with traveling and transportation. We could still have issues of chaotic events outside of the home that affects homes and families. That's ongoing as well. And just some minor breaks and things that could need to be fixed here and there that could come out through this cycle that we see, things like that. But overall, it's about emotions and feelings. So once we have this new moon, this is exact at 2:43 a.m. So by the time you're hearing this video, the new moon is already waxing forward through a Leo. And that's going to be the next change that happens, is this new moon changing signs. So the first few days, looking at Tuesday, Wednesday, and into Thursday, these are the new moon days where symbolic seeds are being planted for the long-term future. So you can consciously work with that. What do you intend to happen over this next month with this new cycle? And it'll start, the moon will be waxing forward, gain more and more light each day that it moves forward here. But again, by the time you're watching this, the moon will have ingressed Leo for an overall change of mood and flavor for what's going on. So even though it's a Cancer new moon, like we're instantly getting this moon Jupiter as well in Leo. So vibes really change for Tuesday. Now let me see here. The moon does change signs. It's going to be later on. This is 3:34 p.m. on the West Coast when the moon leaves Cancer. So for most of the day, the moon isn't making any aspects. It's in this new beginning, pushing forward, and then changes signs in the afternoon into the Leo. So the first part of the day is going to be much more sensitive, emotional, guarded, protective, a little more inward, a little more passive. And then once we get past 3:30ish on the West Coast, which is going to be, 6:30ish on the East Coast. So by Tuesday night, things really start to change and gets a lot more dramatic and passionate here. So for the next 2.5 days, now the moon is in Leo. And the moon is being ruled by the sun in the sign of Cancer. So it still comes back to this root and where there's a focus on emotions and feelings and reflection and review. But the moon coming into Leo here is going to really start things to get amplified from this point forward, because it kind of connects that Jupiter. Both the moon and Jupiter kind of enter that 4-degree territory. Right now, Jupiter's at 3 degrees on Tuesday night, about ready to enter that configuration of the basket, the grand trines, minor grand trines. But the moon also does it here on Tuesday night, it looks like. So the moon, right as it comes into Leo, it makes that square over to Chiron. So a little bit of sensitivity comes in. Again, it kind of reconnects this vibe that I talked about before between Leo and Taurus. With Jupiter here, this big energy that's going to start to try to expand people's needs for going bigger with life, being more visible, being more self-expressive and creative and bold and outward. But then that could trigger some people's sensitivities, insecurities, wounds, and vulnerabilities about their worth, their value, or trying to keep things stable and secure versus things getting more pumped up and dramatic. So it's like people might want to do something, but then they could feel this trigger about how they feel about themselves and if they're capable, or things like that. So just a moment there that the moon triggers that Chiron. The moon is also in conjunct to the North Node of Destiny right as it comes into Leo. So making adjustments from what's behind the scenes, what's pushing us into our own world, what's influencing us from behind the scenes, the invisible influences that we're all connected to or adjusting in some way with this new change of dynamics. And then the moon is conjunct Jupiter. So things are pretty big, emotionally, pretty bold, pretty dramatic. This does kind of bring this energy into the social sides of life, the Leo Aquarius axis. So there is this more dramatic outward energy with social dynamics. So with friends, group, community, the moon is about to oppose Pluto and really activate that basket. In fact, here, let me show you what the basket looks like. I'll take out all the planets besides the ones that are making this configuration, so it'll be easier to see. We'll include the moon too. So Jupiter, Saturn. All right, so here you should be able to see what the basket looks like. It's kind of on its side right here. So we have 2 minor grand trines from the Leo point connecting it now, which the bigger energy is the Jupiter connecting that point, and the moon is going through there on Tuesday night, also activating it. So you can see the 2 minor grand trines kind of form the basket, and then the Jupiter opposite Pluto forms, the top of it, the pressure. So this is a very rare configuration up in the sky right now. And again, it's talking about this world change that's happening, and we're not seeing the full results of it. So give it a couple years and we're going to see a major new world that's being shaped right now. And we're already seeing signs of it since last year. Just look at everything that's been happening, last year, this year. We're moving towards just a whole new era for the world. And with all the outer planets connected here, this is big. This is really big stuff that's shaping the reality of people. It's like a whole new reality is going to start coming in more and more, but it's also kind of a battle for reality. The old realities versus the new realities, these things shifting. Not everybody is happy and on board with changes. So there's still kind of a battle for the overall reality of the world. So, again, and I've said this before, it's showing that there's just so much new opportunity available out there. But these are also aspects that require taking action and making things happen, not just waiting for some brand new situation to drop into your lap and it's said and done. No, it's like you got to make it happen by tapping into fire and air, which is outward, which is about initiating things and going after things. And what's here is that we're all going to be going after certain things new in life over this next couple of years, but it shows that we weren't able to do it or have the experience in the past that we will because of these configurations available. They're showing these connections that have never been here before. So again, there's opportunities for people in different ways, in all kinds of different forms of life here of what this is talking about. But it requires us to tap into it, take a risk, go after something, tap into dreams, kind of take a risk too. I mean, the apex of this is in Aries, the ability to take a risk and start something that has some level of uncertainty about it, and something very new. Again, that wasn't available in this same way. So it's not just in this moment, this week. It's not like we only have this week to tap into this. We have this next 2 years to really tap into all this, but it's playing out right now on the world stage. Things that are happening are shaping the long-term future for the world with all this. So again, it's a really powerful time in history. Let me bring back the other planets here and move forward. All right. So the moon enters that with Jupiter, that one side of these two minor grand trines in the overall basket. But the moon conjunct Jupiter on Tuesday night shows everything is big. Energy is big, vibes are big. Mood and circumstances might be a little bit over the top, kind of dramatic and bold and outward, but I would say somewhat positive here. Yes, there is this opposition that the moon is going through with Pluto, which can intensify mood and circumstances and social situations with friends and group and community. But because it's next to Jupiter here, it should still be a pretty good night on Tuesday night with big things going on. And maybe people feeling more optimistic, more positive about things, but it's still kind of opposing the shadow and these deeper dynamics of life and a sense of power plays and transformations. And that could be a theme all week long because of Jupiter opposing Pluto. It's not going to be exact until literally the very last aspect a week from now, but it's building up all week long and within orb of a tight opposition to Pluto. So again, because Jupiter is the planet of growth and expansion, whatever it aligns with, it expands. And so it's expanding Pluto's power, the overall power dynamics in the air, the power control issues, the undercurrents, the intensity, transformations, situations with group and friends and community and politics and science and all these organizations are going to be intensified and amplified to the next level. And then Jupiter forming, these connections to Neptune, amplifying, expanding the dreams, the fantasies, the visions, the encouragement, something that's inspiring people. It can also be great for creative projects with Jupiter coming into a trine with Neptune. Any kind of music, producing, creativity with film, photography, anything that's, again, expressing yourself, going bold, going outward, going over the top a little bit. But it's going to tap into everything that Neptune is in charge of. So otherworldly vibes, spiritual things for some people, spiritual quest, could be enlivened here too. Something that's inspiring people to take action on, a drive, a passion, gets bold and expansive here. And then by next Tuesday, when Jupiter forms that sextile to Uranus, it's expanding the innovation and the creativity to step outside the box and try new things, try new techniques, and, make things happen by doing things differently than you've done in the past. And it can have good results. And in combination with all these things in alignment, again, we have more opportunity for something new than we might realize. So, and because these are flowing, easy aspects, they don't come with a ton of tension. Now, Jupiter opposition to Pluto, that's going to add the pressure and the tension even more so, but it's still not like super critical, or it's not an aspect that's forcing people to go through some major situation that, they don't want to. Now, there still could be major things that people are going through individually, but it could be based on your own personal transits. You could be under a tough Pluto transit or a tough Saturn transit or other things in your chart that's showing, any kind of situation that's more difficult. But this is something that we have to tap into and make happen, I think, overall. So big energy on Tuesday night, and the moon is kind of forming that connection to all of the outer planets. So kind of tap into what you're picking up on late on Tuesday and see if you feel anything, see if you feel inspired by anything. But this is also where symbolic seeds are being planted for the long-term future, whether people are consciously making plans or life itself is planting seeds of intentions for what will be developing as time goes on here. All right, so those are the major aspects, this new beginning from Cancer right into Leo for Tuesday. And we get to Wednesday on July 15, and there's only 3 aspects, and they're all easy. The moon is making a sextile to Mars from Leo. So we're still in this moon Leo energy for the next couple of days. People's emotions are bigger. It's more bold. There's more drama, creativity. There's more self-expression. There's more social energy here that's coming out. It's big-hearted. It's playful. And it's next to Jupiter, so people are going big. It's like go big or go home with this type of aspect in this configuration. So again, generally the mood is more outward and busy and active and creative. So the moon connecting to Mars, it's going to be later on in the day. It's going to be, it'll be late morning. So Moon-Mars sextile just taps into the overall action dynamic in a better way. So Moon-Mars, emotionally connected to passion, action, drive, and again, doing a lot of different things, a variety of activities with Mars and Gemini. So people can still be kind of spreading their energy very thin or doing a variety of different activities here. But it's generally going to be more smooth and flowing with people's emotions, with their anger, with their passion, their need for something. It's sharper, it's quicker, it's outward. So I'd say overall, Wednesday morning is a good time to be taking action on things, especially with the waxing moon coming off that new moon. And then we see a rare aspect. Uranus makes the perfect sextile to Neptune. That's connected to this bigger 2 minor grand trines going on. So Uranus, the innovation, the new thoughts, new ideas, the radical information in media and streets and local environment, is connecting to Neptune. So it's like the dreams, the innovative dreams are basically connected here. Tapping into vision, fantasy, dreams about doing things differently, trying new things. Now, because it's the outer planets are in charge of what's beyond us, again, this is powers beyond our control that are shaping the world. But we can still tap into it, especially if you have a personal planet around 4 degrees of one of the fire or air signs, then you're wrapped up in this, and you can really, this bigger configuration in the world, it can show that you have something that you're connected to in a new way that could be being shaped through all this. But I would say if you have 4 degrees of Gemini, 4 degrees of Aries, 4 degrees of Aquarius, 4 degrees of Leo, you're really tapped into this. And then also 4 degrees of Libra or 4 degrees of Sagittarius. So, yeah, it's quite rare what's happening here. And then the last aspect is the moon trine Saturn from Leo to Aries. In fact, the moon, Mars, and Saturn kind of form their own minor grand trine. So the moon is basically in a good way with both the hard planets, Mars and Saturn, on Wednesday, showing that people have more strength, more determination, more willpower, that people could feel tougher when there's challenges, not to feel so weak or defeated so easily. We can just work with challenges and tougher energy in a better way. And then the moon trine Saturn can help stabilize emotions and feelings, slow things down, be more mature, work with limitations better, everything like that. So that's the one day that has nothing but easy aspects overall on Wednesday. Mars is now at 12 degrees Gemini moving forward. And again, it's building that sextile with Saturn all week long. So that's great action that is in the background. Now that's at the end of the week when it's perfect. So this weekend into next week, we can still work with it. And we can work with it this week as well. Again, being disciplined and structured and motivated and doing things right, with the two tough planets in harmony with each other. So disciplined action is usually the result of this aspect. All right, and then we move forward and we get to Thursday on July 16. The moon is at the last degrees of Leo for the first part of the day. Actually, for all day, the moon is in Leo here. So it still comes back to the sun in Cancer, putting a focus on home and family and foundational things and inner world things. And yet the moon is in this more outward, self-expressive, creative, outward, bold vibe that's been going on the last 2 days. And the first aspect is actually the moon changing signs. So the moon won't be in Leo all day. It'll be in Virgo. So first part of the day, the moon is in Leo. So that's kind of a different mood than the second half, especially the afternoon, evening hours is when this moon changes signs for the first aspect of the day, technically at 5:06 p.m. on the West Coast. So it's pretty much Thursday night that will get this big change. So really all day on Thursday, the moon is not really making any aspects and it's in Leo. So that can be pretty good still because it's coming off that new moon. Seeds were planted. Some bulb seeds were planted for the future here. And yeah, and then right as the moon changes signs, it's super karmic and fateful because the moon is conjunct the south node. And we're at the very tail end of this Virgo-Pisces axis of the nodes of fate. And the moon is really connecting that in this conjunction, south node and the moon. So big mood change overall for Thursday night. Things get more practical. Now we have both Venus and the moon in Virgo. So the two pleasure planets, the two desires and need planets, it's like what we want. Right as the moon comes into Virgo, it's also trine that Chiron. So there can be improvements, and that's what the moon says for the next 2.5 days in Virgo. There's a need to make improvements with different things about life, especially generally about work, service, health, life, but it can be anything that needs to be restructured, purged, reorganized, made better. Things want to get much more practical and down to earth and logical and down to the details here and looking at things of the past that we need to take care of. Now that the moon is in Virgo, it's being ruled by this Mercury Retrograde in Cancer. So it comes back to, okay, what do we need to work on, deal with, reflect on, review, fix from the past or deal with from the past, or again, purge and purify and let go of certain things that could be better if we make changes and let go of certain things that are no longer needed. So again, getting more organized and practical with things for the next 2.5 days. More of an emotional need to be of service to help other people too, and for general work and practicality kind of comes in strong. But right as that happens, the moon is also building that square to Uranus, the same square that Venus went through on Monday, showing there's some instability going on here in relationships and money and financial energy, but it can quickly get stabilized again once the moon gets past this. So moon square Uranus on really late Thursday night. No, I'm looking at the wrong aspect here. That'll be the next day. So really it's just the moon conjunct the nodes of fate, and then the moon trine Chiron for late on Thursday night. But it kind of brings in this new flavor, this new vibe now, starting on Thursday night. And then we get to Friday on July 17, and the moon is now going to be squaring Uranus for Friday. So moon squares Uranus, and that can show some disruption, some unpredictability happening in the mood or the circumstances really late on Thursday into Friday morning. Moon is also in conjunct to Neptune. We're having to adjust to what's outward, the dreams, the visions, the creativity, the inspirations, to what we need to look at in this more practical, down-to-earth way and be organized. And wait a second. Okay, so this adjusting the dreamy visions to the more practical, down-to-earth reality. And then moon is also in conjunct to Pluto, so also having to make a lot of adjustments Thursday night and into Friday morning to the power dynamic in the groups, the community, what's outward, what's intense, what's below the surface. So the moon is really picking up on all those outer planets as well, but in a more of a challenging way for Friday. Friday might be one of the more challenging days out of the week. There's a lot more difficult aspects and inconjunctions. Things aren't as flowing as easily perhaps on Friday. So I'd say Friday could be a little bit of a challenge. But we also see that the moon makes the conjunction with Venus in Virgo, but it's very practical. And both being ruled by this Mercury retrograde. But there is still something nice. There's a possible enjoyment here on a practical level, or with work or service or something nicer by, really, it's first thing in the morning on Friday. This is around the 8 o'clock a.m. hour, so late morning for other people, afternoon if you're in Europe, for that moon-Venus conjunction. And then the moon is square Mars as the day goes on. Things get a little more edgy. People's moods, feelings about things could become more impulsive, more edgy, like I said, and maybe a little bit of conflict. That's possible here, or people's impulsiveness to do something, take action on something, and people could be more scattered as well with the Mars and Gemini. Plus this square going on between the Virgo and the Gemini is ruled by the Mercury retrograde, so there can be issues, challenges, breakdowns, just glitches here and there, and some just general issues are more likely with this configuration. And that is Friday afternoon, evening hours. And then the moon is also in conjunct to Saturn, adjusting to responsibilities, commitments, restrictions, limitations, pressures as the day goes on. And then the moon connects with the sextile to Mercury, one of the easier aspects, and this will be on late Friday night. We also see that this is the day where Uranus is perfectly trine Pluto as well. So this wild vibe of new ideas, new thoughts, new possibilities is connecting to the group, the community, and the power within the community, and politics and science and technology. And I will say, I've said this in the past as well, but this configuration up in the sky with all the outer planets, it also definitely is speaking about new technologies that are coming on board more and more, that are pretty crazy overall. And, give it another 5-10 years, the world is going to look nothing like it is right now based on new technologies. So we're really entering all that now. Science and technology to the next level of life. Okay, and so Moon connecting to Mercury. There's a moment here, super late on Friday night, where the mood and the mind, the thoughts, the feelings, they're in harmony with each other. There can be better understanding, better reflection, better review, and Mercury will start to slow down now and prepare to station direct by next week. Now the moon is out in front, and it's planted all those seeds from the new moon, and it's waxing forward here, building into this new cycle. And we get to the following day on Saturday, July 18. Moon is still in Virgo, being ruled by the Mercury Retrograde in the home and the family energy, and the emotions and feelings and safety, security, and comfort, things that are being reviewed and reflected on. But the first aspect is the moon sextile the sun. So this is a better part of the lunar cycle, where this is the first connection the moon and the sun are making since the new moon on Tuesday. So the sextile shows that the inner, the outer are more in harmony. There's more flow. How people feel and what they're focused on are more cooperative and in harmony with each other there. And again, there can also be work and improvements done to the home, to the family, to property, real estate, health and healing. Great opportunity for that kind of stuff. And then the moon will change signs as the day goes on. For Saturday afternoon, evening, the moon comes into Libra, pretty much on Saturday night, actually. So Saturday night has a big mood change. And now the moon will be in Libra for the next 2.5 days, but it's being ruled by the Venus in Virgo. And then that's being ruled by Mercury, Cancer, and that's being ruled by the moon in Libra. So it has this connection to Mercury and Venus now for the next 2.5 days. We also see the moon instantly forms the apex of a finger of God aspect between the North Node of Destiny and Chiron. So there could be something fateful about healing, relationships, and that's what the new vibe is now for Saturday night with the moon in Libra. So, it's like now this is an intellectual sign. It's an air sign, to be more objective, to be more communicative, to be more fair with things. It's all about the scales and weighing things out, making judgment calls, and looking at what needs better balance in your life. It can also generally be about your relationships and how to bring better balance and harmony and compromise to different relationships in your life from this point forward. But there's definitely a better mood in the air for people to try to strive for better harmony and balance and fairness and equality for the next 2.5 days. But also it still has that service connection, that work, that practical connection to it, since it's being ruled by Venus. And then there's just two minor aspects, the moon in conjunct to the North Node and the moon in conjunct to that Chiron, forming that finger of God. So having to adjust right as this mood change comes in, having to adjust to what's behind the scenes and pulling us into our own world, what's more emotional, sensitive, intuitive, where are their wounds, sensitivities, insecurities, relationship stuff here. So that's Saturday. And then we get to Sunday on July 19. The moon is in Libra, forming this it's a kite configuration. So the moon is in harmony with all of the outer planets now, and to that Jupiter as well. So the mood and the circumstances are connecting to this bigger theme up in the sky that's shaping the world's reality for Sunday. And Sunday looks like it could be a pretty good day overall. There's a lot of smooth, easy aspects that the moon is making here in this bigger configuration. So there's more harmony, there's more flow, there's more balance. Again, there's more objectivity and fairness about how we're looking at things. And these aspects show opportunities to tap into this bigger configuration, make things happen, try new things, go after your dreams and your visions. If there's anything on Sunday that's inspiring you, it could definitely be talking about this bigger configuration in the sky of this basket and what it all means. Because now here's Jupiter at 4 degrees entering this configuration from this point forward. So the moon sextile Jupiter that offers a better mood, better vibes, more growth and expansion and opportunity, more outward, more relationship and social energy as well. The vibe is connecting well with the power within the community, the friends, and then opposite the visions, the dreams, and then tapping into the alternative possibilities, innovation and creativity. So there's a lot we could work with there on Sunday. But again, because these are sextiles and trines, we have to tap into it. We have to make it happen. We have to put it to work, So check yourself on Sunday and see if there's anything for you that's pushing you to take action on something. And then the last aspect is actually that Mars sextile Saturn, showing the disciplined action is in the air, in the background. We can be more moderate. We can be more steady, disciplined, hardworking, determined, resourceful, dealing with limitations and slowdowns in a better way, things like that. And really take practical action that could have good results. So if you have 14 degrees of air and fire, then you're really tapped into this sextile. I would say especially if you have a planet at 14 Aries and 14 Gemini in your birth chart with the sextile between those two planets, then it's really being activated by Mars and Saturn. And it's rare for this to happen since Saturn is only here every 30 years, 29 to 30 years. So some people will have this tapped into their birth chart, and other people we can just tap into it on our own based on what we're trying to do around Sunday that could lead to positive results. All right, and then we see that we get to Monday on July 20th. The moon is halfway through Libra, starting the day off with Jupiter making that trine aspect to Neptune. So again, that can really tap into inspiring people to be creative, using their imagination, using artistic talents. It kind of expands the dreams, the fantasies, the visions, the new reality, and makes it all much more bolder, expansive, creative. So it could be good for musical creativity, film, photography, anything that's creative and that has a vision to it. This can be a great alignment to really expand that vision, make it more real, tap into something that's dreamy and inspiring, that's there and available. And the moon is also opposite Saturn here on Monday afternoon. So we're still picking up on the pressure, the seriousness, also between self and relationship, self and other, trying to be more fair, more balanced with things. But also there could still be some limitations, some heaviness in the air. But there's so many major aspects that there's opportunities to channel the tension into something. We're not stuck by any means here. We have so many opportunities available if we really recognize them. And then the moon is trine Mars as well. There's an opening for great action, an outlet to channel things into. And the moon is also square Mercury as the day goes on. So some tension between the heart and the mind and the circumstances and mood and feelings and the communications and thoughts. Could be a little bit of tension here between some people's family relationships in some way. on Monday. And the last aspect is Jupiter opposite Pluto. So again, Jupiter's really amplifying everything about Pluto. It's like expanding its intensity, expanding its transformative possibilities, intensifying situations with social energy, group and friends and community and politics and science and technology. There could just be bold things happening, an intensified mood and feelings, and everything is just bigger than normal, more intense than normal with Jupiter opposite Pluto. And it's going to stay that way for another week because, that moon will come all the way around and meet up with Pluto for the full moon as the sun meets up with Jupiter. So that Jupiter opposite Pluto will kind of be around now for the next couple of weeks in this really big, amplified, intense way with whatever's going on in the world. And then by next Tuesday, Jupiter forms the perfect sextile to Uranus as well. And again, tapping into all of the outer planets, showing growth and expansion for this bigger configuration of a new reality for the world. Just one leg of it. There's more and more to come, and we're not seeing it all, but there's definitely a whole new world that we're coming into that we have to accept, realize, expand on, create with, and kind of look at what our next phase of life is going to be about with all this too. This is, with all these kind of big changes in the world astrologically, most everybody will have some sort of a change in their life within this next 2 years. Things are definitely changing. I'll check the description for the timestamps as always, and if you want to buy a personalized report from me, there's a link in the description to that. I'm going to start focusing a lot on locational astrology. So if you ever wanted to know, places around the world that your energy is connected to and where you could live or where certain things are for you, you can check out that. There's that option on my page. So appreciate you watching. I hope you have a great week ahead. Hit that like button for me if you like my reports, and take good care.